Good evening, everyone. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, May 16, 2023. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our Township website. Please all stand to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Ms. Prupus? Here. Mr. Romano? Here. Deputy Mayor Vinayak?
Here.
Mayor Miggins?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the April 4th, 2023 Township Committee meeting minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Okay, it's a really exciting night tonight, guys. We have 2 promotions and we are thrilled to bits about it. And I just want to make a statement. The one meeting that I did miss, the only meeting I've ever missed on Township Committee, we had promoted Felix Reyes and Russ Lynn to battalion chief. So I just want to give them a shout out as I'm sitting here because I think that's important. They know that I was with them in spirit. And then this evening, Chief Echeverria is going to be promoting 2 wonderful gentlemen, so well deserved. So Chief, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Miggins, Deputy Mayor Vinayak, Township Committee members, Alex, Jesse, colleagues, friends, and family. On behalf of all the members of the Millburn Fire Department, I want to express my sincerest thank you to the Township Committee and to the community. It is my great honor and pleasure to be able to introduce the 2 candidates for promotions tonight. We have Captain Ted Beatty and firefighter Michael Adebato. You can stand in front of the podium like you too.
You want them to face out?
Face out or face in?
No.
Face us?
Thank you. Captain Theodore Beatty is being promoted from fire captain to the rank of fire battalion chief. Theodore Beatty was born and raised in Millburn Township and is a 1987 Millburn High School graduate. Ted began his fire career in January 1988 when he joined the Millburn Fire Department as a volunteer. He was appointed a paid position within the department as a full-time career firefighter in 1994. Ted excelled in his fire career and was promoted to fire captain in September 2020. Captain Beatty brings many skills to his new position, including but not limited to platoon mechanic, apparatus committee, fire arson investigator. He also has been devoted to continuing his education. Ted and his wife reside in Brick, New Jersey, and have 4 children. And in attendance with Ted tonight is his wife, Suzanne, his daughter, Haley Beatty, and Tegan O'Connor. Haley and Gavin are his 2 other children and cannot attend tonight. The children are all currently attending college in Alabama and Florida. After his promotion tonight, Battalion Chief Beatty will be assigned as the administrative battalion chief. Firefighter Michael Adebato is being promoted from firefighter to the rank of fire captain. Mike Adebato grew up in Cranford, and after high school, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps as a CH-46 helicopter mechanic from 2009 to 2014. During his time with the Marines, he was deployed to the Pacific, Middle East, and Africa for 8 months with the HMM 364 on the USS Peleliu. He then attended Rutgers University from 2014 to 2016. He took psychology and criminal justice classes and worked as a lead tutor for the Writing Center, where he helped other students with their assignments. While attending classes at Rutgers, he also volunteered with the Cranford Police Auxiliary from 2015 to 2016. In 2016, he was hired as a Millburn firefighter, a member of the Urban Search and Rescue Team, a CPR instructor, and a fire investigator. He is currently enrolled in college classes to obtain a bachelor's degree in fire administration with a concentration in fire investigation. In attendance with Mike are his wife Erica, mother Teresa, and father Mike, in-laws Phil and Frida, family and friends. After his promotion, Captain Abato will be temporarily assigned to administration for training. Mayor?
May I have a motion to approve resolution 23-138, which confirms these promotions?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Karikas?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Gaddy, will you now administer the oath of office, please?
Who wants to hold the Bible? Right hand. After me. I state your name,
I, Darrell Beatty,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Fire Battalion,
the duties of Fire Battalion,
Chief of the Milburn Township Fire Department,
Chief of the Milburn Township Fire Department,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Gotta pin the boy.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your right hand. After me. I state your name,
I, Mike Abato,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Fire Captain
the duties of Fire Captain
of the Milburn Township Fire Department
of the Milburn Township Fire Department
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I knew it.
They're new.
Take it off.
Congratulations, all.
Folks, we're going to take a 2-minute recess. And we're back. Ms. Prupus, you are going to present to Ms. Nelson, Moms Demand Action, a proclamation for this evening.
Whereas every day more than 120 Americans are killed by gun violence and more than 200 are shot and wounded, with an average of more than 17,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. And whereas New Jersey has 439 gun deaths every year, with a rate of 3 deaths per 100,000 people, a crisis that costs the state $5.3 billion each year, of which $168.9 billion is paid by taxpayers. New Jersey has the 32nd highest rate of gun violence in the US. And whereas gun homicides and assaults are concentrated in cities, with more than half of all firearm-related gun deaths in the nation occurring in 127 cities. And whereas cities across the nation, including Milburn Township, are working to end the senseless violence with evidence-based solutions. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is mayor's highest responsibility. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas mayors and law enforcement officers, in partnership with local violence intervention activists and resources, know their communities best, are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as we see an increase in firearms, homicides, and non-fatal shootings across the country, increased calls to domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in township gun violence. Whereas in January 2013, Haida Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at age 15. And on June 2nd, 2023, to recognize the 26th birthday of Haida Pendleton, born June 2nd, 1997, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute to Haida Pendleton and other victims of gun violence and the loved ones of those victims. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Haida's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods. And orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 2nd, the first Friday in June 2023, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 2nd, 2023, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the hands of people who should not have access to them, and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our families and communities safe. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Maggie Miggins of the Township of Milburn declares the first Friday in June 2nd, 2023 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support their local community efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Thank you.
I'm Diane Nelson. I'm here with my fellow volunteers, Jay Moriali and Charlie Mondana. On behalf of the Essex County chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America and Every Town for Gun Safety, a sincere thank you to Committee Person Prupus, Mayor Miggins, and the entire Township Committee. for issuing this proclamation marking Gun Violence Awareness Day again this year. I am a Short Hills resident. I have 2 kids in the Milburn schools. I'm a former federal law enforcement officer. I am also a representative of the 10 million volunteers who have come together to reduce gun violence with Moms Demand Action. Our work includes educating people about safe firearm storage, raising awareness about gun violence, organizing community members, advocating for legislation, and rallying for safer communities. As you are painfully aware, gun violence is a daily occurrence with more than 110 individuals dying each and every day. In fact, the leading cause of death for children in the United States is not car accidents, it's not childhood diseases, it's firearms. So thank you for joining us in recognition of this crisis. This year, Friday, June 2nd is National Gun Violence Awareness Day and the beginning of Wear Orange Weekend. We are inviting all township residents to join us on Friday, June 2nd in Taylor Park at 5 p.m. for a rally. And the speakers will include the Milburn High School chapter of Students Demand Action, Colonel Callahan from the New Jersey State Police, Assemblyman John McKeon, gun violence survivors, students from March for Our Lives, and more. Thank you again to the Township Committee for being such a strong partner in our efforts against gun violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Diane Dresdale. I am the Gun Violence Prevention Chairperson for National Council of Jewish Women, Essex County. Thank you so much for issuing the proclamation that Moms Demand Action presented to you, and thank you for supporting, obviously, the critically important venture of gun violence awareness and prevention of gun violence. What I wanted to say briefly is bring people's attention to what is going on now, particularly in this country with regard to our law. You may or may not recall that the Supreme Court ruled in Bruin that the requirement of justifiable need, which New Jersey had to before a person could get a concealed carry permit, was overruled, which means that in any state in the country, it's much more lenient. People can carry with concealed a gun. In New Jersey, our state legislature came down with legislation in September that narrowed and protected us given the light of Bruin. But unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, a judge in Camden County has overruled that law and put a restraining order on it. So I'm not sure if people are aware, and this is why I wanted to make you aware, that right now, people are getting permits in this state and are able to conceal carry nearly everywhere. And a decision came down today from the same judge, which broadened where they could carry. So it says medical offices, drop off and pick up at airports. I don't think the public is aware that this is occurring in New Jersey. It's in other states where permitless carry is allowed. Here we thought we were protected, and it's really important that we're aware of this and we act accordingly. We show up at rallies, and in the end, we vote for candidates or elected officials who will put gun violence prevention as top of their list of priorities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Reports, we're going to go to reports. Ms. Krupas, do you have any reports for us this evening?
Just a reminder, if you want to participate in the Rahway River cleanup on Sunday, June 4th.
4th, because Friday is the gun awareness, so right,
June
the 4th.
4th. Sign up on the township website. I know that there's social media posts about it, but just sign up if you want to participate, and we'd love to have you join us.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
I do. First of all, from the Community Engagement and Diversity and the Arts Committee, this Sunday, the CETA Committee is presenting CETA Sunday. It's a dance performance featuring Chinese and Indian dances. It's going to be held in the Bauer Center. It's indoors, so there's no rain date. It's on this Sunday from 1 to 4. Moving on to the library, where there's a lot of activity. I just want to report that the book sale that was held last weekend was a tremendous success. And so they surpassed last year's record sales. And so thank you to everyone who volunteered with that. They're working on a strategic plan at the library. They completed the interviews and all the surveys and are in the process of synthesizing results. On June 8th, the county clerk is coming to the library to assist people obtaining passports and applications for notaries. It's June 8th from 9:30 to 3:30. An appointment is required, and you can get further information at essexclerk.com. Also on June 8th, the library is holding, joint with the Historical Society at 7 o'clock, a lecture on collecting and appraising historical autographs and manuscripts. June 10th, at 10 a.m., they're holding a Pride celebration. And then in July, they're holding 2 week-long sessions of chess camp. So it's a pretty busy place at the library.
Thank you so much. Ms. Romano?
Yes, the next session of Minority, Women, and Immigrant Entrepreneurs Education Series presented by Citizens Bank is taking place on May 24th at 5:30 at Town Hall. The focus on how to better predict financial results for small businesses and how to plan accordingly. To attend, register through Steve Grillo at steve@exploremilburnshorthills.org. The planning is going on for a girls' night out, June 8th from 4 to 8 with an after party at Moonshine Supper Club. The first 200 registered get a swag bag, so make sure that you go on to Explorer's website under events and register. They will be setting up a pop-up shop area downtown for businesses that are outside of the downtown. If you are a business outside of the downtown and you want to participate, reach out to Amanda at marketing@exploremilburnshorthills.org. The Art Advisory Committee introduced its Point of Origin Showcase. It's on display right now at the library until May 30th. Features 6 different artists from Milburn Short Hills. The Art Advisory Committee also announced its 2023 scholarship winners. Their displays are also at the library. There will be a reception later this month to honor them. They are Tiffany Gia, Catherine Ross, Annabelle Hung, Renee Zhang, Fumiko Kamari, Ella Kayarli. And a thank you to everyone that submitted portfolios and congratulations to the winners. And then I just wanted to do a quick thank you to Mr. McDonald, Mr. Molman, Battalion Chief Beatty, and DPW for a great presentation last week on hurricane preparedness. A lot of great information, and I believe it is up on the website if anybody wants to see it. That's all. Thank you so much.
Deputy Mayor Vinayak, do you have anything to share with us? Reports?
No report today, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marizzi, do you have anything for us?
Just briefly, I reported last week that a complaint had been filed in federal court by Chi Center. Our firm filed an answer on the deadline due because we hadn't yet heard from the JIF or Mel's to whether they would represent the township. So that has been filed with affirmative defenses and answers to all applications.
Have we heard from the JIF?
I don't think we have.
We have not. Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
Mr. McDonald, do you have anything for us?
I do. Just an update on the Hobart Gap traffic light. We do anticipate that light will be activated on May 23rd. That is the date that's been given to us by the county. Certainly that can change, but just so everybody has a sense of when that would take place. And as I had reported previously, the anticipation is that they will put that traffic light in service with the flashing yellow and flashing red for a few days, and then switch it over to red, green, and yellow after that. Variable message boards will be put up, notice will be put up, alerting drivers to that change, but just wanted everybody to be aware of that. Just a reminder, since the weather's getting nice, that we want to make sure that our residents are keeping up with their properties and that they're, in the property maintenance code. Our code enforcement officer is extremely busy right now, and it's always this time of year. But just know that there are codes for upkeep of property, and if you're unfamiliar with them, you can take a look at those on the township website. But he had asked me to put out a report on that. So
Like keeping your lawn mowed.
that's
and
correct. Yep.
If you're doing work on your house, you can't have debris in your front yard. and
Yep.
You have to have a cart to put it in. And
There's all sorts of things that help keep the town beautiful. And so yes, grass, paint peeling from homes, dumpsters, making sure you get permits for your work, all that stuff. Just please keep that in mind. Just another reminder that the 2022 funded road work has started. This is starting out with drainage improvements to Rolling Hills and Exeter. There will be sort of phases of this work. We're going to go through drainage, curbing, and then the mill and pave. Those residents in those areas have been notified with a flyer from the township outlining the project, as well as what to expect and where to get additional information for that. And so just want everybody to be aware that certain roads will be closed here and there for this work. And then we do still anticipate that our 2023 road improvement money will be receiving bids shortly, and that work will be done over the summer. In particular, Highland Avenue, which I know everybody is aware that the water company has been on there, and it is getting messier and messier with that work. But just rest assured that it will be paved this summer. That's it.
also, since it is getting warmer outside, there's a lot of pedestrians that are out. So we're asking everyone to please really be mindful of everybody that's walking around. I think we will be having some extra police out there looking right in the crosswalks and such of that nature. Maybe. Also, Memorial Day Parade is Monday, May 29th. Step off is at Milburn High School at 11 a.m. We hope everybody can come. And then lastly, just a reminder, and I've said it a few times, but just if you vote at Glenwood School, either in District 3 or 9, moving forward, you'll be voting at the Milburn Education Center at 434 Milburn Avenue. So that's a change in voting. It'll be on your voting forms that come in the mail anyway, but just if you keep hearing it, then you'll remember. And then are they still looking for poll workers? They're looking for, Essex County is looking for poll workers for our town. You're paid $300 for the day. So if you want to do civic duty, make a little money, please contact either Ms. Gaddy, our clerk, or the Essex County clerk, but we are still looking for poll workers. Thank you. Okay, we now have a presentation on the proposed two-way traffic circulation design for Milburn Avenue and Essex Street. And Mr. McDonald, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, so tonight we have Colliers Engineering, who has been working on the two-way traffic study. In particular, they did survey work of the area of Essex Street and the various intersections, as well as a traffic impact study. Tonight we have Alex Zabowski, right, from Colliers, and Michelle Brehoff, who will be joining us on Zoom to present that traffic impact study. And then the discussion afterward from the Township Committee will sort of be as to whether to move to another phase of this, which would be the conceptual drawings of those intersections and public outreach and discussion on the matter. But tonight is where Colliers will present the traffic impact study. Michelle and Alex.
Yeah. So yes, thank you, first of all, for letting me join via Zoom. I did unfortunately have something come up today that I couldn't be there in person, but Alec from our office is also there. He'll kind of be, if there's any questions that you want to ask him in person, he'd be more than happy to help and answer. He has done a substantial amount of work on this. I will start out by saying I don't remember if it was last year or maybe the year before I did present to the committee when we were looking at both Essex Street and Milburn Avenue as both being two-way streets, I'm sorry. What we're talking about here tonight is really just focusing in on Essex. I know along the way it was kind of talked about and maybe decided to kind of try this approach on Essex Street first. So we can see how it works before we commit to also doing Milburn. So what I'm going to present tonight will just be the findings as it relates to converting Essex Street to a two-way roadway. Next slide. So the study area we have identified, I think actually if you hit it again, it may come up with the locations. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this slide here shows the locations that we studied. The blue circles indicate where we actually did do new traffic counts. These were done late fall. And these were just to update the counts that we had in our system. I believe our previous counts that we had were either pre-COVID and maybe some during COVID. So we wanted to get out there, get fresh counts, see where everything is in present day. So these were the study area intersections that we were identified. Next slide. This is this is actually a picture of the traffic model that we create in our office. It's a program that we call Synchro, and we're able to create roadway situations and roadway networks. And it's, you know, the idea is that it models the traffic and models how everything will operate in the future. So this is actually, you'll see here an image of the actual Synchro model, which is why you see the streets kind of drawn in the way that they are. So this is the model that we created. You'll see that Milburn Avenue is still one way traveling eastbound, and that Essex Street in this model is now two way for again to see how the operations would be impacted. Next slide. These are the project extents. So this intersection here is Milburn. On the left is Milburn with Douglas Street. We did find that if we looked at it with and without a signal, the stop control that's currently out there, it will operate at acceptable levels of service. However, if is needed for safety, pedestrians, so on and so forth, a peak hour traffic signal is met, which means that a traffic signal could be constructed at this intersection. Again, if it's decided that, you know, we want to enhance the pedestrian safety or just the flow of traffic in general, you know, a traffic signal could be constructed at this location. The same thing goes for Milburn with the intersection of Essex to the easternmost extent. Next slide. So this is now we're just going to focus on a few of the key intersections within the study area. This is the intersection of Essex and Main Street, and you'll see the proposed geometry here. So the eastbound approach would have one shared lane. The westbound approach would have a through and a right turn lane. The same thing for the northbound and southbound approaches here. You'll see the northbound is a shared lane, and then the southbound approach would be two through lanes also shared for left and right turns. With the proposed two-way conversion, what we found here is that the intersection would operate with similar delays as it does today. So we're not seeing a major glaring issue at that intersection that would change, you know, the delay that's currently experienced by the motorists in the town. Next slide. So here you'll see the proposed geometry with Lackawanna and Essex. Again, we're seeing similar delays to what is currently experienced there. This is also, I just want to note, very similar to what I previously presented when we looked at Essex Street and Milburn for both being two-way streets. I think the overall key, and I'll probably repeat myself over and over again, is that, you know, we're not seeing any great detriment as far as delay and level of service goes for motorists. So that's the same story here. Next slide. We did also look at making Spring Street a two-way street. And again, you'll see here on the screen, the proposed geometry would be one lane in each direction. And this one, there was a little bit of an increase in delay, especially in the northbound approach. But if this is again something that the town feels is necessary for circulation and for is more desirable, then it could certainly be done. It just would, it is going to increase delay at that location in this configuration. Next slide. And then again, we just wanted to kind of walk everybody through what we feel are the benefits of this. Something that's been expressed to me throughout this is to give this more of a downtown feel, have some ability to do some landscaping improvements, better sidewalks. With the two-way configuration, you're not looking at having excessive speeds because everybody's traveling eastbound in one direction, westbound in the other. It kind of slows everybody down, gives it more of that downtown feel, enhances pedestrian safety, discourages cut-through traffic from Route 24, eliminates the need for that constant circling around to maybe look for parking or go to a different store or restaurant. Now they have this two-way capacity. It would improve emissions, air quality, access to businesses, access to parking, economic activity, additional routes for east-west trips, and then expand regional mobility. And then we would also be able to maintain the capacity and the delay for the local trips. So that's really the overall bird's eye view of what we found in our traffic study. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but like I said before, what we're finding in this particular case is that we're able to enhance all of these things without having the vehicular delay suffer as a result of these improvements.
Thank you so much. Does anyone from the committee have any questions?
I do. Would we be looking at bringing the left-hand turn back as part of this, do you think? The left-hand.
Is that at Milburn and
By Starbucks?
Maine, yeah.
at Essex and Maine? I'm sorry.
Milburn and Maine.
Milburn and Maine, yeah. Where there's no left turns, like would we have to bring that left turn back?
Where the pedestrian wall goes.
Yeah.
As part of this, no, we would not be looking to do that.
Essentially, because people would have the option to go on to Essex Street and then make a left onto Orchard Hills Road or Beach Street.
And also, do you see like traffic cutting, like if I'm coming down and I've decided, okay, I'm gonna go the Essex Street route because Milburn Avenue's backed up. And I'm on Essex Street and I'm like, no, this isn't working. Am I gonna start like cutting through parking lots to get back onto Milburn Avenue?
I actually don't see that happening. I think that because you're actually giving motorists the ability to go either way, to take Milburn or Essex. So I think that the delays and the backups would actually be reduced. Could people do that? I mean, I guess, but I actually think that, again, this just enhances the mobility throughout the downtown area.
And just lastly, can we do this on like a trial basis and see if it works?
Well, the issue with where we are in the process is that, the next step for us is to prepare actual conceptual plans. Actually putting a pen to paper, so to speak, to see how this all lays out, what it looks like. And to me, in order to do this, you guys would need to do some physical construction improvements to make it work. So I'm not sure if there's really an option to do, a trial basis of it.
So Annette, we had a team that we were working on, and sorry, Michelle, I didn't mean to interrupt. If
No,
you've
no,
done
of
that.
course, Sanjeev. Thank you.
We earlier, the team was working on making both streets, Essex as well as Milburn Avenue, as two ways. And when we met with another town who has done this, similar traffic changes, when we asked them, is that good for their town? They absolutely said yes. And what would they do if they have to redo it again? Would they do it? They said, we would definitely do it again, but maybe in phases. And when you say trial, and that's where the team actually went in and said, you know what, instead of doing both the streets, let's start with one street first. And since Essex, there are not that much of a really construction work needed, we picked up Essex Street first. Milburn Avenue is where we would need more construction when we make that as two-way traffic. So this thought process was also a kind of moving forward, how to move forward on this phase approach was the way to go within the team. Tara, you may
Yeah.
want to share things.
The only
as-
thing that I wanted to add is that, so if you look at the proposal that was in the packets, so we completed section one. The full proposal was broken down into 4 sections. And so then tonight would be deciding whether or not we want to go ahead and to the second task, which would be to just create the conceptual designs that we can then bring to the public. So we're not asking the TC for a full commitment tonight, but just kind of to move it to the next phase of the investigation to see whether
Yeah.
it's doing or not.
And just to add to that, Tara, that would also include not only the conceptual phase of doing the actual plans, but then presenting those plans as part of a public outreach to the town to kind of, have everybody weigh in on their opinions and things. So there's definitely more collaboration and more to the process. This was kind of just the preliminary traffic analysis to see whether or not the traffic can be accommodated with this proposal.
And we had, one of the main focus of our conversations was definitely on keeping pedestrian safety in the forefront of the entire, the intention of the group is just to make sure that we didn't, and that we enhance public pedestrian safety through this process as well.
Yes.
And I guess, right, because and what Sanjeev said about the not having to do a lot of construction, if we were to go two-way ever if Essex was successful, and we looked at Milburn Avenue, then we would have to, that would be probably the time to then redo the sidewalks on the northeast, what's the other side?
Of the east side of Main Street.
Yes.
Yeah.
To finish the sidewalk improvements that were done, our town looks very disjointed by Main Street at this point. So that would be a further conversation at another time, which we're not talking about tonight, but could be a possibility at some point.
Well,
So-
that is where, sorry.
No, go ahead, Mr. Vinayak.
That's where I think giving, like Annette said, we are going to kind of proof it first on one street.
Yes.
And today, if someone is coming on from Old Shorters Road to drop the kid into high school, they actually go around completely through Essex and come back on the Milburn Avenue, go all the way on Lackawanna, and then get back into making the whole circle to go up to Old Shorters again. With this, they can just go on Essex and then go back on Essex without creating more traffic on the Milburn Avenue. And this will, there was a point which was discussed as well, that it will actually make Essex Street lively as well, and not just for the traffic to go through Essex, and reduce some traffic from Milburn Avenue where these people are just going in circles to go around because it's one way.
Right, I know that some of the, I've heard that some of the businesses over there, they're like Essex Street is a throughway, like it's just, people just go very quickly on Essex, so it would kind of slow that down and incorporate Essex Street into the downtown.
Sorry, Maggie, back to you.
So what I'm hearing is, Mr. Vinayak, Ms. Prupus, you were on the committee, you think it's a good thing to move it forward on to the next phase?
The conceptual.
For the
design, yeah,
conceptual piece of it?
Yeah, and the
Mr.
public
Cohen?
involvement.
I'm in favor and I'm happy that it's phased so that we haven't like committed to doing everything all at once that we have sometimes done in the past.
Okay,
And so if it works, great, and then we can move on to other phases, but it's minimal, more minimal risk.
okay, perfect. Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Same. We're all in agreement. I think that we all think that we should move forward on the next phase of this.
Great. Michelle, do you
Yes.
have any sense of timing for us in terms of how long this will take of you creating the conceptual design plans?
I would have to consult with, I don't want to speak out of turn. What I can do is speak to the group that does the actual design work, get a timeline from them, and then get back to you guys with, exactly when you guys could expect it. My guess is somewhere in the 4 to 6 week range, but I could be, again, talking out of turn.
But
Great.
you don't have to bring the concept. Sorry, Tara, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say potentially then we would have something to show the public in the fall.
Yeah, I would say that that's reasonable.
Right, because what we are doing today is not only just saying, let's go make the conceptual design. It is also to get that conceptual design done and also do the public engagement. with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Please.
So, Michelle, will part of that conceptual design, just to want to make, also include a cost estimate on those improvements?
I believe so, yes.
We would like it to.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We would like it to. Yeah, it has to.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. Okay, great, terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys. I really,
Michelle.
again, appreciate the accommodation for Zoom, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Al.
Enjoy the evening.
Thank you.
Public comment? When invited to speak, please come to the lectern and clearly state your name and whether you are a Milburn resident and or property or business owner. And speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. Please do not provide your full address, seeing our meetings are recorded and are readily available to the public. For the convenience of our community, there's a remote option available. If you called in and would like to comment, please press *6 now. If you are attending by computer or electronic device, please click your raise hand button. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there are 30 seconds remaining. Each individual will be given 1 opportunity to make their public comment. Please be patient and we will address each member of the public that wishes to speak. This is a business meeting and please do not address professionals or staffs directly, and please do direct all your comments to me. A reminder, we're all neighbors and personal attacks will not be tolerated. I will now open the public comment period.
Good evening, my name is Jeffrey Phil. I live in the Short Hills section of Milburn. Last week, I went to see my niece graduate from Berkeley Law School. And at the graduation, various speakers instructed the graduates that their duties now as professionals was to defend the rule of law in our democracy. Yesterday, in this New Jersey Law Journal, there's a various large report regarding representing and defending fundamental rights of people. I found it very interesting that you recognize community outreach in the prior discussion, but there was never any community outreach prior to your decision on the fair share housing. With respect to the study that just happened, can you at least give us a quote of what you think this next phase will cost the taxpayers? Because that never got really mentioned. And I really could not decipher whether the report considered the 2 projects that will be coming online on not being the Wells Fargo, and the says, because it was interesting at the end, at the last, right after the last meeting at the planning board, everyone started talking about traffic studies. And I was just wondering whether this traffic study had started preliminary included those two other projects. Earlier, we heard the word Main Street pedestrian mall. I'll repeat that again, Main Street pedestrian mall. At the last meeting, there was a walk-on change to the ordinance that you'll be hearing in June, where you changed the state enabling statute. You went from what was the statute that allowed pedestrian malls to a different statute. And I urge you before the next meeting to compare the two statutes. Because a pedestrian mall requires a traffic study. And that was a question that Ms. Pruspas mentioned. Because you changed the statute, you don't need a traffic study. I'm glad that we brought an update about the High Center, but that's a federal case. Can we maybe create a pleadings library for various cases that the pleadings, because it's really hard if you don't have the federal system, that we can share the answer in the complaint, because that's a very interesting complaint that was filed by the High Center. Also, on Friday, a response is due to the Fair Share Housing Center's fee application. And I'd like to know what our position is, because they're asking for a fairly five-figure number. And I don't think taxpayers should be paying that when you look at the other things. As to the bill list, this always goes back to the question about how money's moved into the food pantry. At the bottom one, the first cover page, there's something called Patra 2. It doesn't show how the monies go in. There's more, again, gift certificates. It doesn't show where those monies are coming from. It doesn't show that they're coming from a trust fund. It seems that it's coming out of just a line item. It says the pantry's line item, which I can't track.
Thank you, Mr. Feld. Thank you.
Also, I have one
Thank
other
you,
comment.
Mr. Feld.
I have one other comment.
No, Mr. Feld, thank
Well,
you.
you
There are
want-
other people that have to speak. You're the first one up. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You know, we're gonna have a date to, you're gonna answer questions under oath.
Good evening, Dave Cosgrove.
That sounded like a threat, Mr. Feld.
No,
Just
it's
putting
not a
that on
threat.
record. Thank
It's
you.
not a threat.
Yes, I'm putting that on record. Thank
Please
you.
put it on record. I
Thank
spoke
you.
to the prosecutor
Thank you.
today. He says he
Thank you.
emailed me constantly.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Ready? So I had a few thoughts I wanted to tell you about relating to the outdoor dining ordinances that are on, and you know, before you or perhaps even modify them some. Excessive noise from band concerts that these businesses are having outside is a problem. I can tell you from personal experience, it's a problem over by me. What I see missing from the ordinance or ordinances is a failure to recognize that the restaurants who you're granting these rights to, they don't want to just put tables out. They want to actually have concerts and outdoor events there as well. So everyone presents it kind of as, oh, it's nice to have some outdoor tables and outdoor dining. I'm not against that. I think that's a wonderful thing. But it's the concert part, or there was a comedian, I think last year or the year before downtown. A lot of people complained about that. And there's certainly been noise in the past up at the Boxcar by me. I think the ordinance, if you're granting an area that they can put tables down, you need to have specific limits on the number of people that can be in that area. If you're going to give them, 50 square feet that you're going to box off of a parking lot or Main Street or wherever it might be, you need to put some limits on how many people can be there. In front of you, I gave all of you an advertisement that's out on Facebook now, available to the, to the country, to the metropolitan area. And it's the Boxcar advertising themselves as one of the premier outdoor concert venues, right in my neighborhood. And certainly, the normal business day by the Short Hills train station, everything's wrapped up by about 7 or 8 o'clock. There's not a lot going on, and there's certainly no outdoor concerts going on. So I think a limit of the number of people that can be at these events. I think there must be a formal process where these businesses, if you're going to allow them to have outdoor concerts, need to tell the police department need to tell the fire department, need to lay out some how they're gonna set this stuff up, how they're gonna let people in, how they're gonna control the crowd. So people and the police are ready to go in the event that there's more people than people expect. Wait, running out of time. I think there should be a limit on the number of outdoor events that a restaurant should have. I don't think they should be able to have them every weekend. They should get maybe once a month if you're gonna do it again, while the outside concerts. Perhaps townwide, limit the number of concerts that are going on at once, so you don't have the police stretched too thin with them trying to take care of something over by Taylor Park and then something over my mind. Section 4.
Mr. Cosgrove, you're out of time.
All
Thank
right,
you.
I sent you the email. Part of the reason I was reading my email was
Thank
the
you,
town
Mr.
clerk told me that you won't put it in the record unless I read it out.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Cosgrove.
Hi, Jay Morielli, resident and property owner. I want to thank the Township Committee for, I think this is the 4th or maybe even the 5th, Wear Orange proclamation the town has done. It dates back a number of years, and I just want to thank everyone for that. One comment on the traffic proposal. I think it would be a good idea to get some metrics behind what we're hoping to achieve with this change. It was great to hear that a traffic study was done, but there weren't really any numbers provided, like how long does it take to get from St. Rose to the Trader Joe's? Give us those metrics before, make the change. Give us the metrics after, show us that the change has actually accomplished what you're hoping. If the goal is pedestrian safety, provide some statistics. How many incidents, how many complaints have we had in the last 5 years? After we make the change, measure it again for a year and see if we've actually accomplished that. I'm neither for nor against the change, but what I would like to do is see some data so that I can know what to expect, especially in light of we've spent some money now to do a traffic study and we're proposing to do some work. So this may be a great thing, but I think it would be helpful to get some statistics out to people on what we're hoping to achieve. And I hope that we measure it afterwards so that we can actually see if we achieved it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Moriarty. Anyone else in the audience? Mr. Molman, is there anyone on the?
I have something to say.
Nope. I think, are we gonna go there first? One second, please, Mr. Simon.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. This is Christine Best, Milburn Short Hills resident. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the 5G Oprah request that I had because I wasn't able to state everything for my car last time. So I wanted to talk to you because I've made about 3 Oprah requests now, and I believe that the township is in violation. You know, multiple people in the township, including the administrative staff that, you know, actually fulfills these requests, and anybody else who's involved in the decision to limit my access to multiple things. And I believe that on the 3rd violation, which I feel like I'm at 3 violations of the township, it's a $5,000 fine, which is really nothing to you guys. But I do want to point that out. It is a violation of the law to limit access to Oprah with kind of bogus excuses under the law. I do want to just point out in particular, as it goes to Mr. Lupo with the contract with Hoplite Consulting on the 5G status, all his documents, he touts himself as the CEO and founder of Hoplite Consulting. He does not tout himself as an attorney. And I would like, at the very least, to be provided with the documents that states he's in a contract with the township as an acting attorney. I'd like to see his engagement letter with the T's and C's to show that he's, you know, contacted as an attorney. And I'd also like to see his insurance, his malpractice insurance, if he's acting as an attorney. I think at the very least, Mr. Marizzi, you should provide that for me. So I wanted to point that out. I have gotten literally like, I don't know, 5 or 6 emails. I highly doubt a subject matter as contentious as even just putting up one poll would be dumbed down to 5 emails. And that's very, very concerning to me. And I find it really strange that we have meetings about everything from like little sculptures to, park walk to, cleaning up the river to whatever it is. And I think that they're all really fun and important. And I noticed the thing fun. And tonight, there was a lot of time given to the gun homicide issue, which I think is something serious, and everybody has their points of view on it, but I think it's a serious issue and should be brought up and discussed. And it was done tonight. And I want to just remind everybody that 100,000 people approximately in 2023, it's estimated, will die from cancer. And I believe they quoted on the gun homicide gun homicides is about 17,000. So I want to just stress to you the importance of this issue, okay, and the magnitude of numbers, because I'm a numbers person. I'm very concerned about the public safety. I got no response about the questions I had in terms of the additional install within the Short Hills train station. I believe they're actually considering building an underground cabinet. So the actual 5G installation would be hidden, which is really concerning to me because nobody's given informed consent or public notice that they're walking by or might be close to that. It's extremely deceptive practices.
Thank you, Ms. Best. You're out of time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a nice night, guys.
You too.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Awesome, thank you. Once again, thank you, Ben Stoller, Millburn resident on Wyoming. And thank you, Town Council, for sitting tonight. I know it's a thankless job. A couple things, a couple issues I've heard. One, just to revisit the traffic study. We just want to confirm it's inclusive. I want to confirm it's inclusive of the 300 new cars being introduced by Annie Says. By also the project, the Wells Fargo project, the pet store project, and any other projects that may not be in downtown center. When Annie Says did their presentation, the parking engineer seemed dumbfounded and confused because he did a study in June during COVID, after Annie Says has been closed for almost 4.5 years. And he didn't understand why we didn't trust his analysis. Well, let's not fall prey to that again. Let's make sure we do the correct analysis. Let's do the cost as Alex has suggested. We need to understand the cost. And as Mr. Moriali suggested, we need to understand metrics. How do we know if it was effective or not? We must do some performance indicators and understand what is going on there. And this is, critical thinking that's required by the TC. For Mr. Cosgrove, talking about the outdoor concert venue, how is that even possible in that section of Short Hills? We sat and talked about noise pollution for life-saving generators. And we're not measuring the noise pollution by an outdoor concert or the quality of life effect for that area of town. It's ridiculous. So I definitely want to hear some follow-up on what we're going to do there and how we're going to measure that. And then last but not least, and I get a little emotional because my daughter goes to the Short Hills Mall with her friends on the weekends. She enjoys it, etc. One of the most abhorrent events happened yesterday, and no one has mentioned it, where 4 people, perpetrators, robbed the Dior store for $120,000 worth of loot. I'd like to know from the town council members, from Mr. Cohen, Ms. Romano, Ms. Miggins, Mr. Vinayak, and Ms. Prupis, what are we doing to help rectify this situation? Crime levels are spiking. It's not safe. I have an 11-year-old who's at the mall with her friends. They should not be subjected to this type of violence and such. Anyway, thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ms. Pasternak, you need to turn your video on and unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm so sorry for the delay. Good evening. I just have a few comments. I do concur with Mr. Cosgrove. I'm a resident of Glenwood, and I think even not being right there, I have heard the volume of noise. I've heard complaints from other neighbors about what goes on at the boxcar. I really don't think it's appropriate. I think there's an imbalance of trying to accommodate businesses over the residents and our right to have a quiet, peaceful enjoyment of our properties and our neighborhoods. I also would say that the issue with the traffic proposal on the two-way proposal, I really do think that needs to include the new Annie says traffic. I don't think that it was included from what I listened to. That is just really important at this juncture to have the data and the facts on that. The other thing I would say about traffic is I've noticed an increase of these huge trucks traversing Hobart Avenue as construction's increasing in town. I wondered who is monitoring the noise levels, the weights of those vehicles traveling on this road. How is that being monitored? It's dangerous. That pathway there is very narrow. It slopes down on either side of the road. It could easily turn into a terrible accident with these enormous vehicles coming through on Hobart Avenue. I'd also like to talk about the pedestrian mall issue with the, what we're doing regarding the Main Street closure. It just seems like the statute that is being introduced doesn't go hand in hand with a pedestrian mall. So this is a different statute. A traffic study was not done, I believe. So what's going on exactly? Could someone explain that more clearly, why one doesn't comport with the other? I'd also like to comment on the planning board meeting involving the Annie Says property. Mayor Miggins, I just wondered if you could explain to all of us when and why did you change your tune on this project, given that you negotiated the fair share housing agreement on which this particular project was included. And yet at the planning board meeting, you put up sort of a demand for a traffic study, knowing prior that this would be an issue. So why wasn't that discussed during your negotiations, and why did you respond in the way you did at the planning board meeting when you were the one that actually negotiated that project into the agreement as it was? Lastly, I would say it would be great if each one of you could look at the article in this last Sunday's Star Ledger referring to a poll that FDU conducted. It's a pretty sad statement that the majority, a large majority of those polled consider New Jersey politicians corrupt. What can we do on the Milburn Township Committee, or what can you all do to change that way of thinking by our residents and our
Thank you, Ms. Pasternak. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Perry Urso, 514 Milburn Avenue, Short Hills. The mayor, at her request, she's requested the public, any prepared statements that are read during public comments. She requested it to be emailed. I'm also asking if the mayor could also request that any township committee members that are reading a prepared statement can be included in the agenda packet. I have, and forgive me, I didn't hear any of the reports, and perhaps maybe Mr. McDonald, but is there any update on parking lot 14? And have you actually finalized the project plans? Because to date, I still haven't heard anything. And would this TC have any objections if we were to purchase and put up slow down and no speeding signs until the changes have been decided for the public and pedestrian safety? Also, it's confusing on your agenda that under new business and now after the fact information sessions from the February 16th, which was led by Mr. Mullman, Mr. Grillo was there, and briefly Mr. McDonald. So I see, are you moving forward with the commercial solid waste, and which is supposed to be effective June 1st? And if so, when can the commercial property owners expect reimbursement for the loss of benefit of services? I echo I also have concerns with your Main Street closure agenda, the ordinance 2638-23. I echo Mr. Feld, attorney resident. I echo Mr. Cosgrove, resident, also attorney, and Ms. Pasternak mentioned. I'd like to say that also in that ordinance, it mentions in section 4-40.6, section A, it's unclear. So can you kindly explain what Mr. Grillo's position is and why he's involved? And considering that there's some outstanding accounting from pre-SID calendar year 2020, the closure expenditures, shouldn't this ordinance be either denied or just stayed? Because these are still they're unanswered. And also at this time, who was responsible and in charge of handling the Main Street closure? And wasn't there previously entertainment, township DPW employees, police overtime provided, and at what cost? And will these changes in ordinance fees be enough to cover the cost from Mr. Wasserman's promise that certain properties will have additional special assessments as they are a direct benefit from the closure? As mentioned during the presentation regarding
Thank you, Ms.
two-way traffic.
Urso. Thank you, Ms. Urso. Thank you.
So you're not, I can't.
Thank you,
finish.
Ms. Urso. Thank you. Jesse, anyone else left on?
No one else.
No one else. Mr. Seibert, did you wish to say something?
Yeah. Richard Seibert, Milburn, President. Hi, everybody. How you doing tonight?
Good evening.
So this meeting's scheduled for 3 hours. That's what it said on the. It's only 8:15, but there's not enough time for some people to finish their statement. So life-saving generators make too much noise, but music doesn't. I have 50 acres of land upstate. If somebody plays a song, I can hear it from 50 acres. Sound travels. So when people complain about outdoor music, I can understand why. There's rules about kids go to sleep at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. And there's laws that says during the school year, I don't know about the summertime, but there can't be music played at certain hours of the night because it could keep little kids up. So that's something to think about. Did I say about the Essex Street? Will we lose parking spots when they do this two-way? Where people get to park in front of the retail stores? Would that be lost? I don't know. Anyway, I think that you should set aside for public comment so many minutes a night. And if they're not used up, then maybe somebody that wasn't able to finish their comment, you could bring that back. That'd be like kind. I would find that kind. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Seaver. I will now close public comment period. At this time, our professional committee members may directly answer any questions made by the public. It's not a time for dialogue or to debate a matter. And members of the public may contact the township or township committee at any time outside of our business meetings. So let me start with you, Mr. McDonald. Are there any comments you wish to address?
Sure.
Great.
Just a few on the traffic study. One is that the cost for the conceptual drawings, public outreach, and simulation is $31,000. That will come through an additional authorization in the township committee at the next meeting. In terms of the loss of parking, there is an indication that some parking will be impacted. However, that is something that would certainly come out in public information sessions, and the ability to discuss that as we engage with the residents on that. The other question that I'd like to sort of address is with regard to the Main Street. Oh, I'm sorry, on the traffic study. With every traffic study, there is a growth percentage applied to that traffic study, and that also incorporates some of those developments that are being discussed. That was also provided to the traffic engineer. That information was included there. Was it a specific traffic study for Andy Says or for Wells Fargo? No, but it was about how those particular developments would impact what was being looked at here, as well as the growth that is anticipated in every traffic study over years. So just wanted to point that out. I would just ask Ms. Pasternak, this is the first I'm hearing of massive trucks on Hobart Avenue and the danger of that. So if there's an indication of what time those trucks are traveling on the road, or what types of trucks they are, whether they're 53-foot, semi trucks, or if they're dump trucks or whatever it might be, that will be helpful, and then we can look into that further. I just want to be careful about comments like crime has spiked. Yes, there was an incident at Dior yesterday at the Short Hills Mall. Press release was issued today by the Millburn Police Department. That should be in tap and patch at this point. I don't think that particular incident would be considered a spike in crime. Yes, it was a brazen incident. There's probably a whole host of information about that we are yet not aware of, and certainly is still under investigation. So I just want to be careful with that. And as far as the Main Street closure, I just want to point out that the Main Street closure last year was under the pedestrian mall ordinance. That was, again, at that time, under consultation with the Department of Transportation. This year, we went through our same process in reaching out to the Department of Transportation, asking them what it is that they need and what they require from us. They indicated that they wanted this particular statute to be referenced as the governing statute for this closure. And that is the change that was made to this year's ordinance. And that is in direct consultation with the New Jersey Department of Transportation. We will again go through the exact same process that we did last year, in which we send that down to them after assuming final adoption of the ordinance. So this has eyes on it from the New Jersey Department of Transportation. And so I just want that to be clear as well.
Mr. Mariziti?
I have no further.
Okay, Ms. Krupus?
Mr. Lupo, is he our attorney or is he our consultant?
He is a consultant.
And where are we with that, his work?
Yes, I will have draft ordinances to the township committee, but also Mr. Lupo is acting as a consultant for the engineering department, as well as the planning board and zoning board, who may have to hear these small cell locations or review these applications from the carriers. So he's assisting in that and charging those applicants for that work.
Okay. But he's not our attorney. He's not acting as our attorney.
He is not giving us legal advice except for that he is provide, like his consultant contract is to provide us with draft ordinances for 4G and 5G technology.
But is this a discussion about the safety of 5G? It's just the placement of 5G?
Yes, it's the ability for the township to further control the right of way to the extent that we can. And as I've indicated in past meetings, the FCC governs the technology, and we do not have the ability, as I understand it, to deny the implementation of this technology. What we do is have the ability to control it. And we had passed in 2019, prior to the FCC regulations going into place, an ordinance that would help in that protection. And there's a sentiment that from Mr. Lupo that we have some ability to further control the right of way, but not to deny the access of carriers to implement this type of technology. As Ms. Best has brought up at several other meetings, is that other communities in other states, California, Massachusetts, perhaps may be passing legislation to do something further, but that is not something that I'm aware of or that is quite honestly been asked to be looked into.
Got it. The outside concerts at Boxcar, is that under Explore? Or is it just that Boxcar is holding concerts? Does anyone know anything? I mean, just.
I think what it is that the Boxcar has music on weekends, so they might have, when I've been up there having dinner, I've seen a guy playing a guitar, and then there's outside tables, there's outside dining. I don't know this picture here. It looks like there's some band. I don't know, was that the same band that played down on Main Street last year? I'm not sure. But I don't think they're having concerts. I think they're having music and dining like they've had all last year.
Do they have an end time?
Well, the ordinance is.
Well, again, the ordinance, our noise ordinance is a little bit different in that, yes, there is generally an end time in the ordinance, but it's also when you feel that you're disturbed, yes.
Right, so at any point, anybody and this is important to know, at any point in the township, if people feel like they are being disturbed by noise, they should call the police department.
Correct.
And the police department will assist them in figuring out how to deal with that situation.
Yep. And just to, in terms of this particular question and conversation is that it is not my impression or that I've heard that these particular concerts or outdoor music last past 10 p.m. On the weekends. There is no law that I'm aware of that you can't have music on school nights, but certainly there is a noise ordinance with the township. And I think that, very simply, it is a conversation. We could have a conversation with Boxcar and see what they're planning, as well as, let them understand the concerns. Look, the last thing I think that they want to is to be visited constantly by the police. And so I'm sure as the owner and operator of that, the individual will probably be more than happy to be understanding and accommodating those things.
Okay, and I guess we'll have to kind of see how it all unfolds.
Sure. I think if it becomes a real issue, it's going to be a real issue for them first and foremost, and then we will certainly have to address it.
Right. All right, that is all. Thank you.
Mr. Cullen?
Nothing further.
Ms. Romano?
Yes, I felt like I was watching Footloose like I did as a child, where everybody was like screaming how much they hated music. I find the downtown closure over the summer, the concerts in the park. For a while, there was a resident in South Mountain that just brought instruments out on his front lawn and started playing music for the neighbors. I think it's a great thing. I think it brings families together. It brings people into our town. They visit our restaurants. They shop in our stores. Our town is bustling over the weekend, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and I'm proud to be a resident here. And I mean, I see neighbors, I see people that I haven't seen in months. You know, during the summer, I stay home, I don't go away. And this is something that I look forward to during the summer. So they usually stop at 10 o'clock at night. I don't see it's a noise issue, but you know, I guess we will see what happens this summer. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Benoit, do you have anything?
Yes, Mayor. There were most of the questions were already answered that I was looking into, especially that 5G that we hear. If as a township we're not able to control anything on 5G, why the perception is that we can do something and we're not able to do it. So that's what we get from the township, that there is nothing we can control on, is the state or a federal law. If there is something that we can do, maybe our attorney here or the administration here can look into it, and wherever we can, I thought Mr. Lupo was going to help us in that. And so whatever we can do, if we can please get some information on that with certainty, that'll be good. Secondly, we heard a resident talking about parking going to go away from local businesses if there's two-way traffic going to happen on Essex Street. And I heard Mr. McDonald talking about there will be some parking space that we may lose. I just want to clarify that we had that conversation in our study as well. It's not going to be all the parking spaces going away. It may be on the turns that we may lose 1 or 2 parking spots on the site, because when cars are turning, you don't want to have in that corner that parking space. But overall, the parking spaces that are there, it should still be there with the two-way traffic. Then traffic study that was also brought up. We had the traffic study done, Mr. McDonald, where there were minutes given and there were kind of level 1, level 2, level 3. I don't remember the complete terminology in the traffic study. So if we can make that available or share that when we have public engagement, that'll be great. So overall, this study actually happened over a couple of years. It did not happen just yesterday. And there were residents involved in this project along with Tara and I. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, just that we will make sure that the traffic impact study is posted to the website.
Okay, thank you. We will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to any items listed on the consent agenda?
I have a question.
Sure.
The Taylor Park pathway lights, when is that gonna happen? Do we know?
Yes, that'll be done over the summer. We've received a grant for that, $70,000 from Recreation, a state grant, and then another, we're utilizing the remaining Essex County grant that we had to fund these lights, and they are going to be not sort of within the entire park. They're going to certainly be in the entrances leading to Bauer Center, as well as a few along the cherry blossom path there. And this is something that, and they are going to be in the style of what we currently have in our parking lots, which are the black with the more antique looking heads.
Got it. Great.
Any other questions?
So they're gonna be light poles. They're not gonna be like low lights.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
Great. Thanks.
May I have a motion to approve resolution 23-139 through resolution 23-149, which are listed in the consent agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Benoit?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we consider our budget hearing, we're going to take a 5-minute break. 2023 meeting. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 23-150, which authorizes the township to read the 2023 municipal budget by title? May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Minaya?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I will refer to the full committee for any final comments on the proposed budget.
I have, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I have spoken in the last meeting as well. I'm very much in favor of the capital budget of the township, but I am looking for efficiencies in the operating budget of the full township, overall township budget. Want to just put it for the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay. Mr. Larissy, would you like to get the highlight reel before the,
Just that one slide,
before the
Yeah.
public comment
increase in.
or public
Right.
questions? Public hearing.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So as requested, just a few highlights here. Our net taxable value, that's the total taxable portion of the municipality, is a little over $9.8 billion, which increased $46.5 million from the prior year. Our municipal tax rate, excluding the library, is proposed at 0.451%, which is a 1.01% increase from the prior year. And the average residential value of the town is set at 1.275 million, which is an increase of 8,000 from the prior year. And I'll just go through the residential impact. The average residential impact of the municipal and library levies on the average residential home will pay $6,215. And for any other, questions anybody has, the presentation is online. We had a public session last week or the week before, May 4th. And in the presentation is a grid chart that shows various home values. If your home value did not change, it will show the impact to you based on this budget. If there's anything else. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I hereby open the public hearing for any comments on the 2023 municipal budget.
Jeffrey Feld, first I want to thank the presentation that we had on May 4th. Also, in the future, when we do have that kind of session, if we can have the user-friendly budget prior to that session will help us. Because one of the things that came out of that public forum, when we hear the tax rate, and next year when you do a chart, if you could maybe show the increased use of surplus over the last 5 or 6 years and showing the increase of the total budget and the amount of taxes, because folks, this year we have increased the use of our surplus by approximately $1.2 million. If that money was taken out, backed out, we would have a tax increase approximately of in excess of 2%. In addition, we are lucky as a community that our tax base has been increasing over the last 7 years rather than decreasing. And that's reflected every year in our library tax, because that's a statutory amount. And you see every year that the amount of money goes to the library just because of the values of going on, that there is an inverse relationship. The other thing is that we have to focus on is unfunded costs. I think a couple months ago, we had a credit rating report. You said we're good, but you have to read sometimes the footnotes. You have to read footnotes of the audit. You have to read footnotes of the credit reporting things, that we have some unfunded liabilities that we have to be cognizant of, that being pension, that being accrued vacation times. But also this year, in the last few months, we have a new unfunded cost. That's affordable housing. And there's two components of this. And we discussed this on May meeting. One is like the rehabilitation of like $10,000 per unit. And then we have the real unknown, that being the 9 Main Street. And I think we had to keep cognizant of this because Madison, I think yesterday passed a bond ordinance for $1 million to meet one of their obligations in their affordable housing. But in the future, like next year, when we go through the process, we have the user-friendly budget, the introduce user-friendly budget prior to the public forum. And if we could have more when you do your charts, just showing the historical use of surplus, that we luckily, we do have the benefit of a surplus, that we were able to increase it to pay the shortfall that we had of the COVID monies that we did not have this year. That we had the federal COVID monies.
Thank you, Mr. Feld. Mr. Molman, anyone have any questions about the budget online? Yes, please.
Hi, I just had a quick question about the budget. Is that really true that the average tax is $6,000 a year per household in Milburn? And I just wanted to understand how that was calculated. And then I also wanted to ask, like, I haven't seen a lot of budgetary amounts going to like the DPW, and just projects in the town to like make the town more beautiful, because the roadways and just general things just around are like kind of falling apart. And being that we have such a little amount of debt, I just don't really understand why we're not spending a little bit more on things like that, because it does devalue the town. So that was it. Thank you very much for the presentation and all the hard work that goes into it. I know it's extremely taxing and time consuming.
Thank you, Ms. Best. Mr. Walsh?
Hi, good evening, Perry Urso. I have a question about the budget as far as since it's been an outstanding question about the expenditures for the Main Street closures, those monies been budgeted within somewhere? Because we don't know the amounts, and you have overtime that we're paying for and other things that are required in that Main Street closure. So I just want to know if it's accounted for in your budget. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Urso. Thank you, Ms. Urso. Mr. Molman, anyone?
No.
No. Okay, nobody in the room. I am going to close the public hearing, and would anyone like to respond to any of the comments made this evening about the budget? Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. One of the comments was about the average residential property tax. That number is correct, because that is only the municipal portion. That does not include the school or the county. So when it comes to the municipal portion, it is $6,215 on an average residential assessment of $1,250,000 in home value.
270.
Sorry, 275. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the increase in use of surplus, I think Mr. Laris, you can speak to that a little bit more. However, certainly it is something that we keep a very close eye on in what we are utilizing in surplus and what we have available in surplus, and the ability to keep that surplus at a level that is financially responsible. And so that both goes for whether it's getting too low or whether it's getting too high. And we do have a fund balance policy, and we want to make sure that we're operating within that fund balance policy. The Main Street closure costs, I think I had addressed that in terms of the question that had come up when we were introducing the ordinance, which was how much overtime does that create, and from the police department is approximately $9,600. There is a little bit of overtime with the initial closure and the reopening. And that money is budgeted through the overtime budgets, as well as, the personnel budgets that we have in the current budget. I think it's, generally probably between $10,000, $10,500 total for that closure from a municipal standpoint. And I think that is it, unless there's anything you wanted to address, Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Alex. That was a good explanation on the fund balance policy. We have a policy. And when it gets too high, we want to bring it down to an appropriate level. When it gets too low, we're going to want to regenerate it. But we have been fortunate to have positive operating results the past few years. Regarding unfunded liabilities, we have two main unfunded liabilities. One is pretty much out of our control, is pensions, okay? In our footnotes, our accounting, we don't have to actually state our unfunded liabilities as part of our financial statements, but it's in our footnotes. We get a report from the state of New Jersey, and the municipal pensions are mixed in with the state pensions, especially on the public employee side. So there is a liability that comes along with that, and it's a big number that is a kind of a fictional number, as if everybody just retired and everybody was eligible for retirement. But that is something that's within our audit footnotes. The other one is accumulated absences. That's sick and vacation payouts. Employees hired after June of 2010 are capped at $15,000. And that's only on retirement, not from just leaving your job. So the liability there is decreasing. Otherwise, it's part of union negotiations, and that's something that all towns have in their budget, and that's reported in our user-friendly budget as well as our audit. That's it.
Thank you. And Ms. Best, yes, thank you very. Oh, okay. I was just going to say thank you very much, Ms. Best, about bringing to everyone's attention the amount of little debt that we carry in the township of Milburn. I think that's really important, that we're very conservative in our approach to spending money, and we have a very small amount of debt. And also, you might have missed in the beginning when Mr. McDonald talked about the streets that are getting, there is a whole process to it, and there are a whole bunch of streets that are getting milled and paved, and they just started over on Rolling Hill and Exeter, and there will be other streets throughout the summer that will be getting paved. Okay, that's all. Deputy Mayor Banayak.
So just to add to what Mr. McDonald said, $6,200 on an average municipal taxes, that is 25% approximately of the overall taxes. The remaining 25 is county, and 50% approximately school taxes. So if you see about $24,000 as a bill, 6,000 is township, 6,000 is county, 12,000 is school. Again, these are very generic percentages that residents may see or look into. Then surplus, people were talking about. We have been fortunate to keep increasing our surplus the last few years in pandemic, and that's why the taxes are not going up. Otherwise, if you see surrounding towns, it has gone up in the surrounding towns way up because of the pension as well as the benefits that have gone up drastically for all the employees across the state. So financially, we are very sound. We have always done our capital expense. Most of the time, we don't raise or don't go out and take loan from outside. We do it with cash basis. And we have increased last 2 years our capital spend on roads. What it used to be $400,000, we had increased that 2 years ago to $1.2 million. And it's similar this year as well. And taking the money from the surplus, we did it last year as well, but still the balance of the surplus was more than the previous year after taking that money out. Now this year, with that pension and with that medical benefit going out, it may not be the case like it has been the last 2-3 years. And that's where I keep saying that we need to really be conscious of how we are spending, what we are spending. And that's where the operating budget needs to come down, just looking at future insight. immediate threat, we don't have any. We are in very good financial state. And thank you, Matt and Alex, for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve resolution 23-151, which authorizes adoption of the 2023 budget?
So moved.
May I have a second? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Benaya?
No,
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there resolution 23-152? Are there any comments from the committee in regards to resolution 23-152? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve resolution 23-152?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Benaya?
You're muted, Mr. Benayak.
yes, sorry about that.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2639-23, Ms. Prupus, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance
I would like
2639-23.
to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2639-23, an ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinances of the Township of Milburn, Chapter 8 Parks and Recreation Areas. The purpose of this ordinance is to make amendments to Chapter 4-40 Sidewalk Cafes of the Township's code. These amendments will add fees and regulations for those qualified businesses that place tables and chairs on an authorized street closure in the township. The road closure must be longer than 2 weeks, and fees will be paid at a per table rate of $50 for any additional tables that utilize the roadway or in addition to a qualified business's normal cafe seating. Does Alex have anything to add to that?
Yes, so this was at the request of the Township Committee in terms of, in particular, the Main Street road closure, but we wanted to make sure that it addressed any road closure that was also authorized by the township. What this also does is it eliminates the application fee. It was brought to our attention by the clerk's office that this becomes confusing for the applicants. And so we just added that application fee into the per table seats under the normal fee structure for the ordinance, as well as adding a per table fee for the road closure of $50. And so it will not be prorated. It doesn't matter if it's just 2 months or it's a month and a half or a month. It's $50 per table for each additional table. Also, we wanted to make sure that we added in the insurance requirement for those streets that abut a county road. This has been a sort of conversation with Essex County through the years that we want to make sure that they're listed as an additional insured. So this allowed us the opportunity also to make some other changes to the ordinance that were necessitated. So.
I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Benaya?
yes,
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 2640-23, Mr. Cohen, you are scheduled to sponsor.
Yes, I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance 2640-23, ordinance of the Township of Milburn adopting the Township of Milburn 9 Main Street redevelopment plan in accordance with the local redevelopment and housing law NJSA 40A:12A-7. My understanding is this is the first step that is required to comply with the settlement in the building of the 9 Main Street development. And Mr. Petto, if you can add anything, I would appreciate that.
Good evening, Mayor Miggins, members of the Township
Good
Committee. Graham Petto, Principal of Topology, serving as Township Planner. We have provided for you this evening for introduction, as read by Mr. Cohen, regarding this ordinance, introduction of the redevelopment plan that has been crafted just for the portion of the DPW lot upon which the affordable housing project is to be built. The redevelopment plan is very narrow in scope, just relating to this project, and sets the parameters for development of the 75 unit, 100% affordable multifamily housing development in accordance with the township settlement agreement. Happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the redevelopment plan. To just further advise the township committee this evening, this is a land use procedure. So the plan will move now over to the planning board for advisory referral and consistency review. We anticipate that at the June 7th planning board meeting. And then as noted on this evening's agenda, second reading public hearing here back on June 20th. Happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Deputy Mayor Banayak?
No questions, Mayor.
No questions? Okay, Ms. Prupus?
No questions.
Mr. Cohen? Ms. Romano? No questions. Okay, no questions. Thank you.
I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus? No. Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak?
Yes,
Mayor Miggins?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Resolution 23-153. Refer, okay, 9 Main Street, back again. Mr. Petto?
This resolution is the formal action to refer the redevelopment plan that you just passed on first read over to the planning board for their consideration and
Okay.
review.
So this is to move it on to the plan.
Correct.
Okay.
That's an advisory review and they'll issue a memo back to you for the plan.
Are there any comments from the committee in regards to resolution 23-153? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve resolution 23-153?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus? No. Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak?
yes,
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2637-23. Mr. Cohen, you are scheduled to sponsor this.
I present for consideration an ordinance entitled Ordinance 2637-23, ordinance amending and supplementing the Township of Milburn Development Regulations and Zoning Ordinance. Tonight is the time set for a public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with law.
I declare the hearing open.
I move that this public hearing be closed and that the ordinance be adopted on final reading and that the township clerk be directed to publish the ordinance by title as passed on final reading in accordance with law.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus? Yes. Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak?
yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
No old business. Now we'll go on to new business. Solid waste collection services. Mr. McDonald, please.
Yes, as has been discussed for a while this year, we have talked about changes in particular to the commercial pickup and making sure that our commercial properties are having private pickup for those that remain. Because as I had presented previously, a process had been in place in years previously where a commercial business that looked to come into the town, even if it was a change of use from retail sales to retail services, they would end up having to go before the planning board, and that planning board would direct them as a new business in town that they had to have private trash collection. We instituted many changes, I think, in particular after the downtown vision plan, to make entry into our business districts a little bit easier, a little less costly. However, with that, part of that was that the ability for those businesses to be told through a resolution of approval that they needed to have private trash collection went away. And so what we are doing here is making changes to the code to establish that that change will take place, as well as make several other changes that were presented to the Township Committee in a red line version of a draft ordinance that would help assist in the chapter 14 section of the code. Jesse can certainly speak to that. A while back, he had provided changes when it came to definitions of what is recyclable and different things like that. The other thing that is addressed in this code is the need I feel, or, that trash is placed in containers and that it is not placed at the curb and just in a loose bag or, subject to animals getting into it or other things, and making sure that, that helps keep a sort of a clean, crisp look on the streets. So there are several changes to this, but again, the main change is to make sure that the commercial business pickup by private haulers is addressed in this. So that is the way that things will operate going forward, just regardless of who the hauler is. With that, Jesse and I are happy to answer any questions from the Township Committee.
I have a question. So Mrs. Urso has brought up on several times a question as to whether commercial businesses that are part of the township pickup and are switched over will be reimbursed for any of that. Can you confirm that?
No, they will not. The fact is that there are many more businesses in the township that don't receive that benefit and are not seeking reimbursement. So those that do switch over will be more in line with the majority of those businesses in the town by having private haulers.
And if I could just add that that's consistent with the state statute, which in the opposite way requires that in connection with multifamily units of more than 5, that there be a credit against the cost of service if it's provided by the management, but it specifically does not provide for any payments to be made on behalf of commercial use.
I thought that. I just wanted to clear that up because
Yeah.
it's come up, several meetings. So maybe we'll put that to rest then.
And just in terms of timing, and so that there's some understanding there, is that that no official change, although we have alerted commercial businesses to the change coming. Some have taken that and they have made that switch. Others are more than likely waiting for an official notice or a code change, but certainly that would take place upon and assuming any adoption of the revised ordinance.
So is there consensus on this from the Township Committee?
Yes.
And there'll be a first reading and a second reading.
Yep.
We have consensus? Yes, consensus? Consensus, okay, there's consensus for that. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So
Motion.
May I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Good night, Milburn Short Hills.
Good night.